Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the next video on prokaryotes versus eukaryotes. So let's get started on this next video. So if we're thinking about organisms, well, organisms can be one of two things. They can be multicellular, like us, or they can be unicellular. Now, multicellular organisms are made out of multiple cells. That's like humans. And unicellular organisms, well, they're only made out of one cell. Example of that might be bacteria. So we can break this down. We can break cells down and cell types into prokaryotic cells, which are going to be things like bacteria, single cellular organisms, an organism that only is made of one cell. Or we can break it down into eukaryotic cells, or multicellular organisms where cells go through, they form together, and then they have specialized functions. So when we're thinking about this, well, prokaryotes, what organisms are going to be prokaryotes and what organisms are going to be eukaryotes? Well, prokaryotes, remember, are unicellular. They're only made out of one cell. So examples of that are only going to be really archaea and bacteria. And when we see archaea and bacteria, when we see the little spherical or conical shaped organism, what we're seeing is just one cell. Now, if we look at eukaryotes or unicellular or eukaryotes, which can be unicellular or multicellular, eukaryote can consist of protists, which are going to be single-celled but eukaryotic organisms. We'll talk about why they're eukaryotes, not prokaryotes. And then we can also think about animals like us, maybe this tiger here. Tiger's made out of multiple specialized cells. We have plants, which again have multiple specialized cells. And then fungi, which also are made out of multiple specialized cells. So eukaryotes can be unicellular or multicellular, whereas prokaryotes can only be unicellular. And bacteria and archaea are going to fall under prokaryotes, and eukaryotes are going to consist of protists, animals, plants, and fungi. So when we're thinking about this unicellular versus multicellular, what are we thinking about and what categories are going to go through and make this up? Well, unicellular organisms contain a single cell in their body, whereas multicellular organisms contain numerous cells within their body. Now, unicellular organisms have no membrane-bound organelles, whereas multicellular organisms have membrane-bound organelles. Unicellular organisms, all the cellular processes are carried out by that single cell, whereas in multicellular organisms, cells are differentiated for specific functions. And then unicellular organisms are going to reproduce via binary fission, whereas multicellular cells are going to reproduce via mitosis. So if we're looking at these two cells here, what we can see are a variety of different things. The biggest thing that we're seeing here, though, is the fact that we have specialized membrane-bound organelles on the eukaryotic cell on the right. And if we look at this little bacterium here on the left, well, in this case, we do not have membrane-bound organelles, and we only have one cell here. Now, that one cell is going to remain as that single organism, whereas the cell on the right, the eukaryotic cell, is going to form together with other cells and have specialized function, and it's going to allow for differentiation in that organism. Prokaryote, and then we have a eukaryote on the right here. Eukaryote. Perfect. So we can break down the words in two different ways. So we can break down the words to understand what they mean and what they correspond to in the cell. So the word carry in both of them, well, this means nucleus. So carry means nucleus in both of the words here. Now the word pro means before. So pro means before, and u means true. So when we're thinking about this, what this word is basically telling us is prokaryotes are before nuclei went through and evolved. About 2.7 billion years later, what we get are eukaryotes, which are true nuclei holding cells. Pro means before, carry means nucleus. So this is before nuclei, and then eukaryotes are true carrying nuclei cells. Now, if we look at a prokaryote here, what we're going to see are a couple of things. Now, this is a more ancient cell. So we're going to see this open unit here. And this open unit basically goes through and contains the cytoplasm. But we can see here is we have all of our DNA that's not enclosed by a nucleus. So what we have is no nucleus, and we don't have any membrane-bound organelles. So no membrane-bound organelles. Perfect. Now, what we can see here is all these little dots. There are ribosomes going through and floating in the cytoplasm. And that makes sense because you still need ribosomes to make the solid structure of the actual prokaryotic cell here. But the cell wall is going to be a little bit different depending upon if it is in our bacteria or an archaea. So it does still have a cell wall just like a eukaryotic cell. So you have a cell wall, but depending upon if it's our archaea or bacteria, it's going to have different complex polysaccharides making it up. So complex polysaccharides. Now, no DNA enclosed by the nucleus. We have no nucleus, no membrane-bound organelles. There are still ribosomes to make the proteins. We have this open unit here. Now, if we go through and look at this eukaryotic cell, we immediately see that there is a nucleus. And if we delve a little bit deeper, we can see all of these membrane-bound organelles. So we have mitochondria here. We have a membrane-bound organelle here. We have the lysosomes. We have the vesicles, endoplasmic reticulum. Nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle. So we can see the complexity in this cell. We can see all of these organelles are extremely complex. And this is a cell that's more specialized and has evolved over more time, so it has more complex material to go through and make it up. So if we're looking at this, you can immediately see the difference, and the big giveaway is going to be we don't have a nucleus surrounding the DNA here. We do have a nucleus surrounding the DNA here. So let's go through and look at a Venn diagram to try to better understand the categories here. So both of these are going to have a few things. They're both going to have DNA. The DNA is going to be different, but they still have the genetic material DNA. They both have ribosomes because they both need to make the solid structure of their cells. They both have a cytoplasm, and they both have cell membranes. Both have cell membranes. Now, prokaryotes are going to be a little bit different. They are the oldest. They're also the simplest of cells. They lack a nucleus. They are only single cellular. And they're going to lack complex organelles. Now, eukaryotes, well, they evolved from prokaryotes. So evolved from prokaryotes. They are larger. Plus, they are also more complex. They contain complex organelles. And they can be single cellular, or multicellular organisms. So if we're looking at the two of these, what we can see is they all have DNA, ribosomes, cytoplasm, and a cell membrane, but prokaryotes are older. They are before, if we're looking at the phylogeny between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, they're the oldest and simplest. They lack a nucleus. They're single cellular, lack organelles. Whereas eukaryotes evolved from prokaryotes, they're larger and more complex, contain organelles, and are single or multicellular. So did you guys learn? Well, did you learn the difference between prokaryotes versus eukaryotes? Did you guys learn unicellular versus multicellular organisms? And then did you guys learn and review the cell parts as we went through and talked about them when we're talking about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells? This is going to be the end of the video. I will see you guys in class tomorrow.